Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Moletrap here, coming at you with game number 100 of the MSL Top 100. And this is going to be an exciting game. And if you are not familiar with the series that we're going into right now, if you missed, I did a little intro video to kind of talk about this whole this set of games, I guess. If you haven't seen any of my games that I've done from this before, basically this was the top 100 games that NBC Game, which is the company that did the MSL, they decided that they were going to rank the top 100 games ever played in the MSL. And this is out of thousands of games as well, because there's, you know, seasons, multiple seasons a year. Each season has dozens of games just in the qualifiers. So these are the top 100 games of all time in the MSL, basically. And we're going to start off with number 100, and we're going to be going all the way down through every game to number 1 eventually. But in any case, if you want to know more about that, I suggest you go, like I said, I've made a video kind of introducing the series, and I'll leave it to you to look that up if you're interested. But in the meantime, though, we've got a great game here. We've got none other than NaDa versus iloveoov playing here, and this is from the TG Sambo MSL. So this is from on the game, on the map JR's Memory, which I'm not actually super familiar with, but we'll have to see how it goes as we go along. So this is going to be an amazing game, though. This is a game between two absolute titans of this time, I guess, at the very least. You know, this was played in, oh, I have to double check actually when this was played. I think it was 2004. Yeah, 2004. And so in 2004, iloveoov and NaDa were basically the two best Terrans. And we've seen them play in a lot of really hardcore series, in semifinals and finals and quarterfinals, in MSLs and OSLs. And so this is going to be a great game. And this is, you know, part of kind of a rivalry. This is like one of the rivalries of 2004. And if you've watched some of the other videos I've done on their games, you'll be able to get more context in that. But part of the MSL 100 is that, you know, the games are kind of standalone single games. And so this particular game, even though it is in the context of this rivalry from 2004, it's going to be pretty amazing anyway. And so they're really going for this double split screen first person view. They're like hanging on to this view for a long time. I'm actually kind of surprised. I haven't seen them do this before. I guess I haven't watched many MSL games from 2004. But in any case, we do have NaDa is going to be the one at 12 o'clock, by the way, and we're going to have iloveoov being the well, in this view, teal Terran at the, yeah, I guess the mini map is probably from the observer point of view. So no, so the yellow Terran at 12 is going to be NaDa, and the teal Terran at about 4 o'clock is going to be iloveoov, if you were not sure about who's whom. And not a whole lot to say just yet, because you know, both players kind of doing identical early builds here. They're both going to float their barracks out in an attempt to check out what the other person is doing. And yeah, so it's just starting off kind of slow, but you know, TVTs between titans like these have a tendency to potentially get out of hand. And now we're going to start potentially seeing some variation. No variation, but we are seeing the next tech steps. Both players just in lockstep with each other. And, you know, that is actually a kind of a cool thing in itself. You know, I'm kind of, I guess I'm being a little dismissive that, okay, well, nothing has happened yet. But it is really interesting to see that both these players, who are absolutely on top of their game at this point in time, are playing identically. That's how polished they both are with the best build of the time, that they're going, you know, just step for step right next to each other along this tech path, and getting almost exactly the same things. Although we do see a little bit of variation now. We do have, whoa, actually more than a little bit of variation. Who it is? It's actually hard to tell who on the minimap who that is, but I believe that is NaDa's factory off on the side. So we have basically two factories for both players. iloveoov has his factories on iloveoov again is the teal Terran, and NaDa, I believe, is making a third proxy factory. He's making 2 machine shops in his base as well. This is kind of crazy. So we're gonna have a little bit of a vulture of harassment here coming in from iloveoov. iloveoov is actually gonna run in. He's gonna see both factories. He's gonna see both machine shops. The SCV does get, I'm sorry, the Vulture does get killed off. But it not before it scouts those 2 machine shops. Now, 2 machine shops is often going to mean early mass vultures, right? It's going to mean, and it may be, in fact, that. Well, it probably will be that. But he's going to see that and he's going to say, okay, 2 factory vultures. I've got my 2 factories making vultures also. So this is going to be pretty standard. Oov making a 3rd factory now as well. So both players are going to be in similar positions, but NaDa rushing that factory, that 3rd factory very early. He's going to try to get a little bit more vultures out and just try and win that early vulture game. If you can win a big early vulture versus vulture battle and come out on top with a few extra vultures, that can win the game, because then you can run in and slaughter your opponent's SCVs before they can catch up. You know, it can be a really big deal. And for NaDa having that 3rd factory out a little bit earlier, and I'm not sure exactly how this works as far as the dynamics of the overall game. Has he had to cut SCVs in order to have the money to get a little bit more vultures out? Is this a specific timing that he's come up with? And making a 4th factory in his base as well. So they are just both basically massing vultures, and this is so funny. This is so 2004 to see this kind of gameplay. You wouldn't usually see this many factories so early in a TVT in 2021 when I'm recording this particular commentary. You would see maybe 2 factories into a push into an expansion or something like that, or 1 factory into expansion would actually even be more likely. And hold that thought, because we do have a little bit of a battle potentially. The extra vultures that were built on that proxy factory are coming into the main, and they're starting to slaughter the SCVs. They're turning and actually targeting down the enemy vultures popping out of the factories, which is a very smart move. Now he doesn't have to worry for an entire other round. And the barracks was landed to kind of, well, actually that barracks, it looked like he was going to try and land it to block the vultures from getting in. He at least slowed Oov's vultures from getting back in. It took him a little bit longer to do so, but he is going to be able to use that and clean it up. But now NaDa has his main group of vultures out on the map. He's been producing this entire time. He's going to be able to rejoin. Now, here's the thing, even if they come out even right now in a battle, if they do a battle and they come out even, or even if Oov has 1 or 2 extra vultures, NaDa will still be ahead because he actually slaughtered a ton of SCVs, and here comes the big battle here, and it looks like NaDa actually has a couple extra vultures. That 4th factory for Oov coming into production a little bit too late, even though NaDa lost some in the base, and Oov is going to be forced to retreat back up his ramp. He might be able to hold the top of that ramp, though. That's just such a superior position that it may be that he can hold off a far superior force. NaDa has about double the vultures that Oov has right now, but he might be able to hold this off right now, especially if he can get some tanks out. The tanks, they're both kind of a little bit worried about making tanks because there's so many mines on the map with so many vultures out. But at the very least, I think Oov could probably stand to make a couple of tanks on the top of that ramp and not worry about it too much, because all the mines are going to be out on the map. He would have seen if NaDa planted any mines inside of his own base, and would know it wouldn't have to worry about that. So it's kind of a good situation. Now, normally I would expect in this case, because it's kind of a containment situation, NaDa might not feel he can break up that ramp, and we might see him get an expansion base and try and take an economic victory. But no, he's actually going to try and force the issue, try and make his way up that ramp. I don't know if this is the right move there, because not only does he have the choke point to fall back to, but he actually has the high ground location as well. And so obviously some of NaDa's shots going up that ramp are going to miss the vultures at the top of the ramp. Just a little bit of it's just gonna have a little bit of an edge. It's a really awkward spot there, where I actually don't even know where like the definitive point is. And oh no, Oov has gone down the ramp. Oov, what were you thinking? Why did you go down the ramp? Well, it looks like he might be able to hold things off here, but he had a superior position, and he's sacrificed the advantageous spot on top of the ramp to go down here. But it may be because NaDa was not having the same advantage of the rally point there, and I thought they were even. I'm not sure exactly how that happened. I'd have to go back and check again, but Oov just outplaying NaDa. It could have been that he had 1 or 2 extra vultures there. It was hard to tell, when they both have 15 vultures, it's hard to get an exact count and decide who has the advantage. But I admit I was wrong there. I thought Oov was making a mistake going down that ramp, but it turns out He knew he had the advantageous situation there. Plus, NaDa had fallen back away from the bottom of the ramp, so he didn't even have that defensive, or not defensive, but a superior advantage around the bottom of the ramp. He could have formed an arc around the bottom of the ramp and just made a firing squad location so that iloveoov could never break down there. But he kind of fell back from that spot a little bit. So now iloveoov is venturing out on the map. He's going to find that extra factory and try and hunt down those extra vultures. Oh, and he's going to be able to put a vulture on the ramp to block NaDa's extra vultures from going up into his main. Very nicely done. Those are going to get polished off. 2 more vultures in the bag for iloveoov. So iloveoov has definitely caught up, I think, because he killed off those 4 vultures kind of for free in his main. He lost SCVs for it, of course, so it wasn't, I guess, for free, but he got 4 vultures there. And now coming out ahead in the vulture count in that attack outside of his natural, and then finding those 2 extra vultures and killing them off as well, iloveoov has been able to turn things around. And remember, iloveoov was considered to be a macro god, and he was a macro god in 2004. That's one of the reasons why he was so successful, and basically, you know, one of the reasons why he's so important to the history of Brood War is because he was one of the first ones to really perfect the macro style and really make use of hardcore macro to gain advantages, you know, in his games. You know, he has the nickname the Cheater Terran, I think, partly. I'm not actually sure about this. It's kind of an assumption on my part, but, you know, partly because he was someone that could just create so many units, and you're like, how does he have that many units in so little time? You know, anyway, point being, iloveoov's macro seems to be winning the day for him right now. He has now gained an advantage in the vulture count, and he is now parked outside of NaDa's base instead of vice versa. NaDa's got some Goliaths out here. Curious to see how it's going to go. Goliaths are very good at fighting against vultures. He's trying to very, very slowly and steadily move out down the ramp to try and pick off these mines, but there are so many mines it's not going to be effective. Yeah, okay, there he goes. He gets a scan off. He's going to be able to pick off some of these mines. Oh, he actually gets a little bit too overzealous moving out with the Goliath. The vulture's trying to come down the ramp as well, but iloveoov just has a perfect position so that his units can all fire simultaneously at the Goliath, whereas NaDa's units are bottlenecked coming down the ramp, and iloveoov just with taking the superior position that NaDa had earlier, turning it back around on him and making use of it, and once again NaDa losing more units than he was able to kill. And iloveoov is now expanding in order to take complete advantage of that. This is really interesting. He's actually now NaDa having had that proxy factory discovered. He's actually floated up to a high ground near iloveoov's natural expansion and has built a machine shop there. So he's going to try and get some siege tanks up over the ridge there, and that might be able to be effective. Actually, like I said, I don't know this map too terribly well. I don't know if it's going to be easy for him to deal with that situation. And NaDa has now actually pushed down his own ramp and is slaughtering the vultures that were left outside. Again, you know, both players just kind of like getting a little bit too complacent in their contain, and in this case, so you can see that iloveoov has Goliaths in his natural expansion. They did not rally forward to help out in that fight, and I guess they can't really because he probably doesn't have enough scan to make his way across the map. But in the meantime, that meant that the units that iloveoov was making were not able to actually make their way across the map to join the containment, and that meant that basically NaDa was making units for that battle and iloveoov was not. So NaDa has now retaken the bottom of his ramp and actually, I think, turned things back around. This game is basically a lazy Susan, where, you know, it's spinning around and the advantage is going back and forth between either player. And I think it's spun back around to NaDa at this point, especially because he shut down that expansion. He cut off the SV, and in fact, it might have been better if he'd let it finish almost, because then iloveoov would have had to fly it back to his base and wouldn't have been able to make use of it, and it would just be eating up that money. It looks like he's canceled the expansion though, and iloveoov is now recreating rebuilding that command center in his main base again in order to be able to fly it out once again once he's kind of taken control of territory that he can use it again. But in the meantime, NaDa is making a command center in his base. Now, there is a little bit of a window of time where NaDa will potentially be able to expand earlier and get his command center down earlier into the expansion base and start to get more units out though. But it's really hard to. I wish I. Usually you can kind of tell, and it doesn't really matter as much necessarily. But I wish I could get the supply counts right now because it's just so. Oh, what is this tank doing? Where is he going? Suicidal tank. just decided to go up. No one told that the driver of that tank that there was a minefield. Like, everyone else in the NaDa's Terran army knew exactly what was going on, and he's like, why is no one going out in this field? This seems like a good spot to go siege up. I'm gonna go check this out. No, that was not a good idea. Anyway, uh-oh. Oov is trying to gingerly go down the ramp now here as well. Nope, he's gonna fall back up the ramp. He's like, that's a little too spooky. I'm gonna get out of there. He's got a dropship out as well, and he's probably gonna float some Goliaths over to the enemy base and try to do some damage that way is what I'm expecting here. Could be tanks as well, though. Oh, that's right. Okay, so looks like he's gonna actually. Okay, I thought he was gonna drop some units out and protect that new base that he's gonna try and get and that little pocket expansion, but not the case. SCV's transferring over, by the way, and it's a little bit dangerous for him to be able to do so, but it looks like he does feel like he has the advantage enough to move that over there. Okay, so this is what I was thinking. He is going to fly some Goliaths up to the top of the map, and he's actually going to ferry some tanks up there as well. So both players trying to fight over the high ground outside of NaDa's expansion. And this could be where Oov spins that Lazy Susan back around and in his favor again, because if he can get that high ground advantage over NaDa's base, it might be what he needs. And this is interesting. So he actually floated the command center over there. He told it to land. He transferred the SCVs, and it never landed because there's mines there. And so the SCVs are now just like long distance mining a little bit. But in any case, he is going to be able to. I think he's realized it now. I think I saw him clearing out those mines in order to land that command center. There, he has landed, in fact. So both players at 2 bases right now. But again, NaDa getting that second base up a little bit earlier. Oov maybe needing to do something, make something happen here in order to get that advantage there. Look at this. There's those SCVs still long distance mining. Okay, so NaDa has actually completely lined that area above with tanks. I didn't even realize that he kept pumping out tanks. He didn't just make like 1 or 2 in order to shut down that natural. He was like, I'm gonna make a bunch of them. And this is really interesting because forcing Oov, and hold that thought, we do have a bunch of vultures dropping out here to try and kill off SCVs, but Oov is on top of it. He's dropping his own army on top of that there. The counter drop here coming down as NaDa is actually, well, I thought he was going to try and land troops on top of Oov's troops, but it didn't end up happening. A lot of intricate positioning happening in this game here right now, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go. Oov is pushing in to try and take control of that area. He's using his dropships to spot, actually, and not to drop anything out. And here comes NaDa's counter forces, though. What does he have in there to drop it? No, the Goliaths have forced him away. It might have just been a bait, actually. It might have been rather a bluff. He might not have anything in those dropships, but either way, he got a little bit too spooked to drop things. I think that would have been a really solid drop if he'd had those dropships full. It would have been a really good idea to drop on top of Oov's forces there. But he missed that chance, and now Oov might be able to secure his expansion. So Oov, it's really interesting that NaDa, by taking the high ground above Oov's expansion, forced Oov to kind of put his own expansion forward and make their line of engagement so close to their bases, right in between each other's bases. Their bases are just both butted up against each other, essentially. And here we go. Now he's coming in. Is he going to drop? He is going to drop some stuff. Goliaths and tanks dropping out a little bit piecemeal, but is it going to be enough? And it looks like with Oov dropping some Goliaths down and tanks as well out of his own dropships, he is going to win the battle. And Oov is going to take complete control of that high ground. NaDa's chance, I think, to retake control of his own natural expansion has just been given up, and it looks like he might be able to force these Goliaths back with these tanks sieging up on the high ground, but it looks like he's going to pick up and just go ahead and drop back over here. Nope. The tanks unsiege, so he can't just drop Goliaths on top. But, okay, can he get some damage done with his own dropships here? Putting out the tanks on top of the high ground. He needs to target that siege tank down that's so low on health. He's not targeting it, and instead, the Goliaths and the tanks slaughter NaDa's forces. Oov now has firing position over NaDa's expansion, whereas Oov himself has a complete clear path to keep mining in his own expansion. And is that... Okay, so NaDa looks like he's trying to re-expand to the sort of 11 o'clock base, or 11:30 base, or something like that. But, oh no! Oh, NaDa's running his tanks out into the mines. And that was, I think, the last straw. And Oov now dropping his own forces into NaDa's main is going to seal the deal. And that's going to be GG. Oov taking the game over NaDa, and that was so back and forth. I think towards the end it was more of like a little bit of a landslide going downhill against NaDa's favor, but yeah, so that was pretty crazy game. Really fun game. Again, this is just number 1 of, well, number 100, but it goes down in the the order. So like the first game is the number 1 game, I believe. This is starting the series off with a pretty crazy match. And again, you know, part of why this game may have been picked for the top 100, it wasn't as crazy as I was expecting for like the top 100. But remember, this is part of this crazy rivalry between these two players as well. So that's something to keep in mind in addition to that. So, but in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. Really fun game between two of the best Terrans of 2004. And so fun to see, you know, just really clever back and forth play. Both players taking some clever advantages here and there. Both players losing by making a couple mistakes as far as positioning back and forth as well. And in the end, we just saw like a million vultures killing each other into a nice little, you know, Tank Goliath dropship game. And really interesting to have those positions there where, you know, they were both fighting right next to each other's expansions, basically trying to take territory there. It was a really cutthroat, really scrappy TVT. And in the end, Oov's macro and decision making and positioning end up winning out for him. So GG. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.